From Tumwater, Washington, going out to the 5 counties and beyond. No Shhh, it's the TRL Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Annalisa, and we are your hosts for the library podcast that talks about more than just books. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Annalisa.
How are you?
I'm tired.
Why?
Because we were up very early this morning driving an hour and a half from Tumwater.
Yes, because today is our 13th episode. And we are
the first on-location podcast we've ever done.
Yes, this is the first time that we're recording outside of our podcast studio. So we are on location. Do you want to tell everybody where we are?
At the beautiful new Mountain View Timberland Library.
Yes.
And if you follow the library on social media or get our newsletters or go to the website, then surely by now you know we have a brand new library in Mountain View. We're very proud of it and shout it to the rooftops at every opportunity we get.
Yeah. So we're going to do a podcast about it too.
Yes. And true to form, the podcast decided, well, we'd travel out to Mountain View and do our podcast about the Mountain View Library on location. And why not? It's a gorgeous building. We have the fireplace ambiance behind you and the mushroom structure in the background. And also it's doing our guests a favor, or one of our guests, keeping her from having to drive out here. Isn't that right, Judi?
That's right. So instead, all of you had to come all the way out here so that I could be comfortable in my new library.
You deserve it. You deserve it.
Well, that's an excellent segue. So why don't we introduce our two guests on the podcast today on this very special podcast episode?
Yes, we have Director of Operations, Brenda Lane.
Back for the second time.
Yes. Remember Brenda from the renovations, refreshes, and remodels episode. Probably one of the most viewed podcasts we've had so far, right? And the inimitable Judi Brummett, manager of the Mountain View and Packwood Timberland Libraries. Welcome to the both of you.
Thank you.
Judi, you had no choice. You had to be here.
I had to be here. And welcome to you guys
Thank you.
to the Mountain View Library.
Yeah,
Right.
Last time I was here, it wasn't fully assembled. The mushroom wasn't here. Things were kind of all over the place.
And you were helping with the assembly.
I was, in
Yes.
fact. Yeah, I put together like 4 chairs. Maybe some of the ones we're sitting on, which
Very well could be.
could have been mostly assembled. It might have just been putting on feet, but I'm still going to go ahead and take credit for that.
That's right.
There's some bookcase in here that I also put together. So,
You didn't like carve your initials into it or anything?
well, don't look too closely. I might have done that. So I got my 5 minutes of fame in the Mountain View video.
Yes.
So
Yes,
it makes it
you
look
were
like I
there.
did a lot more work than I really did.
Right. Judi has been really the very forward-facing person of all of the promotional materials for, videos and posts. And so Judi's been really out there, the face of Mountain View. And so, of course, we had to have you on this. And we haven't had any repeat guests so far, but there really is no one else that can talk to the process of building a brand new library than Brenda. So we appreciate you both being on the podcast. And how long has it been now since the Mountain View Library has been open?
We opened 2 weeks ago, so 2 weeks and 3 days ago. We opened on the 11th.
I saw pictures and video of the grand opening, but the 3 of you, Annalisa included, were actually here for the grand opening. Not me, because I'm lazy and didn't want to haul myself out here on a Saturday. How was it? How did it go?
I thought it went great. So many people from the community. We had over 100 people here. And after everybody left and went home after 1 o'clock, we still had other people coming in, and a lot of people in the community didn't make it that day, but have come in since, and people who have said, I've seen the pictures, I can't wait to come in and see the library. So, we're still here. There's still a lot of exciting things to see. And if you haven't seen it before, all I can say is stop in, see it. It's so much better in person than you can even portray in pictures and video.
I heard you
in
had
my
dignitaries here doing speeches and things of that nature, right? Is that...
There were a few speeches, yes. It was kind of hard to hear, and because the kids were having such a great time
I'm told
with the mushroom.
chaos in the mushroom.
I know we should really address the mushroom in the room.
Yes.
Because some of, you're maybe listening to us. This is a podcast after
right.
all.
Good point.
But we also film it. So if you're listening and you're not watching us on YouTube, this might be a good one to look up on YouTube, because we do have a giant mushroom behind us that maybe we should address first, because that is such a memorable feature and highlight of this library that's, really when people are looking at pictures, I think that's the one that stands out.
Yeah, of all of the structures, well, I don't know. I was going to say of all of the structures in all of the libraries that we've refreshed recently, this is probably the most immediately evident when you walk into the building.
Right.
And the pirate ship in Shelton is pretty obvious too, but you got to go downstairs for that.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, what made me think about that is you said, it's better the pictures. There's really no way to experience the mushroom than if you're in, like, we've done video, we've done pictures, but it is really hard. It's something to behold when you see it in real life. So I'm sure that the reactions in the past 2 weeks of people coming in have been, I mean, you can tell me, but what have people's reactions been to the mushroom?
The kids just go crazy.
Yeah.
And they walk in, they see it, and they're drawn to it like a magnet. They just come running in. A lot of times there's screaming involved, especially when it's time to go home and they don't want to go. But it's just been overwhelmingly positive, the reaction, even from the grown-ups who don't have kids. And you'd think that all of the noise that is created from it would be a huge distraction, but it really hasn't been. It's just been great.
Well, Brenda, where did the idea for a mushroom specifically come from for this library?
So a lot of the ideas that I have for play spaces come from my initial conversations with the library manager. Usually my first question is okay, tell me about your hopes, wishes, dreams. If you could have anything you'd want, what would you want? And they usually give me a laundry list of things, and we start talking about things that are possible, feasible, we can't do. And then from the space is where I just start trying to figure out what a theme is, so to speak. And usually it comes from the conversation. And then when I start doing like my inspo boards and looking at things, something will jump out. And then and in this case, it was a mushroom. We were looking at other play structures, and we were doing things at Westport at the time. And I had all these plans and different things that I was looking through. And I found this mushroom, and Kendra, our deputy director, she is really into mushrooms. She's kind of hippie. And I was like, what would you think of this? And of course, if you watch the podcast with Kendra, she's a children's librarian at heart, and she started squealing. She's like, "Oh my, that would be the best thing ever." And I showed her kind of this drawing and this plan, and it goes from there. And then we build, and then we decide it's going to be very whimsical. It's going to be very magical. We're going to use the elements that are around us in the building. This building was going to have, big windows. We have trees that you can see. So kind of building on that, and it just starts organically like that. And then this is what we end up with. Once we hand it off to the operations person, Skylar, who is building a lot of our structures, he just makes it a million times better. And then in this case, we had Aaron and Sophia. They have a background in art and painting. They were able to add things. So it's a large effort by a whole bunch of people that make something like this happen. It's not out of the box. We can't just buy it. We probably could, but it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm too cheap for that. We're not paying that. Not doing it.
This is a taxpayer funded
right,
institution.
pretty much. And I'm going to save money any way I can. We've got the skill and the talent, and this is what we end up with.
I think what I like so much about the mushroom in particular is that it really fits the Mountain View vibe, because you're up here in like the foothills of the Cascades, and you actually could find, an Amanita mushroom that looks like that.
I think they do mushroom hunting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Foraging.
You wouldn't want to eat one that looks like this.
Probably not.
No.
But it does. I mean, it's a very recognizable mushroom,
Yeah.
so it really kind of it fits the branch. Not to say that there aren't pirates in Shelton, things like that, but this really fits the Mountain View vibe in a way that some of the other play structures are cool, but not necessarily fitting to where they are.
So you mentioned, and I don't know if people realize that it is our own staff that are building it. You said we could get it from a box. We could pay someone else to build it. And, there are times that may call for that. But how much money is that saving? Maybe ballpark would be good. I mean, by having our own staff build these structures.
Well, I mean, for this one in particular, I would say to have a craftsman build this, it would have minimally been $75,000 just to do the structure to build it, because you're going to pay for the travel, you're going to pay for the materials, you're going to pay for, the add-ons of the cost, you're going to pay for that labor and that skill, and it's not cheap. And we have that skill on our staff, and we started doing this about 5 years ago, trying to utilize our staff in a way that would help us get the goals of the play structures or the refreshes that we were doing. And it just keeps building. And as you can see, it just keeps getting better every time. And saving that money is important because, for one, it's, that's a hard sell to say, yeah, we're going to put in $100,000 play structure
Right.
in a library.
It's one thing to say we're going to build, this kind of functional element of the building, or we're going to refresh the meeting room or the bathrooms or something. This feels more elective. So saving money on the more artistic, playful things feels more important. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And $100,000, and like I said, $100,000, I could do an entire building refresh on that. So to take and use that money in that way wouldn't probably be the most prudent use of taxpayer funds.
Right. Someone's going to ask that question.
Yeah. And so this way, I mean, I'll use the pirate ship in Shelton, 19 feet long, or 19 feet wide, 26 feet long. It's incredible play structure. It was done for less than $20,000 in material. It would have been easily $200,000 to commission. And believe me, I've looked. Because I know we have to build these into our timelines, and we have to be really detailed. We have to be very organized in order to make these timelines work with these types of structures that we're building at the time into the entire project scope.
Judi, were you anticipating people, were you concerned of people's reactions to having a play structure in their library?
A little bit, because we do have, an older population out here that comes into the library often. And the idea of having a nice area by the fireplace for people to come in and sit and read and just relax. And then right over there is the mushroom, and there's kids, but the kids aren't in here all the time. So there are quiet times while the kids are in school. That's a good time. I wouldn't advise, if you're coming in and looking for a quiet space on Saturday, this isn't it. It's not going to be quiet on a Saturday necessarily. So, but the morning, the afternoon, while school is in session, it can be pretty quiet in here. So that's helpful. Two things that Brenda said that I want to touch on was, she mentioned Erin and Sophia painting on the mushroom. Well, I was here every day watching the mushroom go up, and each day I was like, this is looking great. We're about done. And then Erin and Sophia came in, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize how not done we were and how great it looked. Even after the first day when they first got started, it looked great right after that. And then the little finishing touches just made such a difference. And the mushroom itself is awesome. The additions to it just made it pop.
It is quite magical. And I just think I remember the littlest things about my library growing up, and I remember there was carpeting on the stairs. So I'm thinking, for that kind of core memory, just what memories are these kids going to take with them from playing on a mushroom in their library? It's so special. So if I were to hear, sometimes I hear comments about that's going to make the library loud, but I think about what the experience that we're trying to give to children. We're trying to bring them into the library and,
experience it in all different ways.
Yes.
Because not only is there a mushroom to play and get energy out on, but there's books and materials, there's coloring, there's hands-on puzzles and play. There's a little kitchen underneath. I mean, there's all these little magical places. They can go upstairs into the top of the mushroom cap, and there's, pillows and quiet if they want to take a book up there and read, and lights, and it's very quiet and serene, but there's just all these different things that a child could do. They don't have to just go crazy on the mushroom. There's tables and mushroom stools and all sorts of things.
There's always going to be books.
There's always going to be books, but it exposes children to all sorts of things. And I think that is, if it helps draw people and families in, I mean, that's a goal. We're focusing on that. We want to create those core memories for those children who create that generationally.
Yeah, to have those good feelings about the library and want to come back. Yeah.
And it isn't just about reading in a library. I mean, here we've got these kids coming in that maybe they don't have a lot of other kids that they play with. So now they come in here, there's other kids they've never met before, and they're learning how to play nice with others. They're learning how to share. They're learning what they can and cannot do with other kids that aren't their siblings, or just, and I've seen that too, families that maybe they're homeschooling or their kids are not in school yet, and it's just giving them exposure to other people. And that's as important as learning how to read. And a lot of these kids are learning how to read at home. So they come in here, they do have different books, but they also have other experiences besides the books. And that's really important.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it seems like there is a really strong homeschooling community out here, and they use the library as a resource in more than just one way.
And you were talking about there are quiet times at the library. And one of the new features of Mountain View, this new iteration of Mountain View, is expanded access hours. We've talked about expanded access hours in previous podcast episodes, and that's also another thing we're very proud to promote. But that now you can come to the library before it's staffed, so as early as 7 in the morning.
Right.
If you have an expanded access card, you can be here when it's probably pretty quiet, I would guess.
Usually. I know there have been nights when we close at 5 o'clock that there's families that aren't ready to leave yet. And so they stay and they play in the mushroom and they read and they do whatever it is they do from until 8 o'clock at night. So 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week is a pretty good deal.
I'd say.
Well, I feel like we kind of put the cart before the horse a little bit by jumping into we had to address the mushroom in the room.
Yes, indeed we did.
But I do feel like we need to go back a little bit, because, I've been with TRL for a couple of years, and ever since starting, Mountain View's kind of been in process. It was always, that was happening. It was about to happen. But why build a brand new library to begin with?
Well, the building that Mountain View was previously in, how many years had you guys been there?
I think it was 18 years.
Yeah. I've heard, it was a leased building. It had a lot of issues. It was not really set up for a library, made do for a long time. And there was a board meeting where a previous trustee made a suggestion that we put some money aside to start building a library in this area. And it wasn't the first time that it had been spoken about. I've been at Timberland for 15 years, and I've heard it ever since I've been here. There was always a search for a property, a search to put a place, a search to find somewhere that we could build a building out here. We just were never successful in finding a piece of property that was in the location we needed to be in. It started with that suggestion, and I had a meeting with up here, and I came up and talked to the previous library manager. That person was suggesting that the property right outside where the old library was, where they used to, I think people used to sell mushrooms or something, that would be a great spot for the new building. And it used to be an old gas station. There were oil drums or something underneath. And so I said, well, I'll check it out. I don't know if that's going to be feasible or not. Do you know any realtor around here I could speak with, somebody local that would know? They sent me the name. I called the person, emailed the person the next day, and they told me that property was not feasible. But they had I told them what I was looking for, and they started the hunt. And we were really fortunate that we came out here to look at a piece of property that was for sale. When we got out here, it was not for sale anymore.
Surprise.
So we drove all the way out here, and they said, I'm sorry, but that property, they don't want to sell it. They've changed their mind, and they've decided that the person that is leasing the building, they don't want them to leave. They don't want to kick them out. So they're going to try to work something out with that tenant.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, well, if you have anything else. And at that point, that's where Jack and Kathy came into our lives. And that started this whole process as far as procuring the land, because you can have money set aside for what you need, but if you don't have anywhere to build it,
Right.
it doesn't really
That's kind
matter
of
how
square
much
one
money.
in the new library process.
Yeah, it
It's
really is.
Actually having a place to put it.
You have to have somewhere
Right.
to put it. And it has to be a great location for your community and for all of the things that you want for your library, to make it an easy build too. I mean, if you're trying to jump through hoops or you're trying to, mitigate floods or owls or trees or birds or what, I mean, anything, those are all just things. This was seamless when it came down to it with this property.
Well, it's a great location. I mean, it's very visible, right on Highway 12, and I'm told across the street from a gas station that does really good pizza. So that's apparently
Most
part of being here.
important Part,
Yeah.
more important than the pizza, than the gas station
I don't
pizza
know,
would be the school.
the pizza's pretty good over there.
Well, I wish someone would have told me that last time I was
Well,
here.
we got the school. We can talk about that
Okay.
later. We're very near the school, yes, but gas station pizza, you got to make sure to highlight that. I know I got my priorities in line here. Anyway, back you were saying Jack and Kathy, right? Who are they in this story?
So Jack and Kathy are the local couple who own this property. Kathy was actually the realtor that we came here to talk with, and she, in those few weeks between that property outside the old building, not feasible at all. It's not big enough. It's in the flood zone. It's not even remotely. I mean, she had this laundry list of things of why it would
Well, you
not
definitely
be.
don't want to be in the flood
But
zone.
I said I would ask, and I did, and so she knew what we were looking for. And apparently she had been talking to Jack, her husband, about we were trying to build a library. And it was actually Jack who said we should offer them the property. And this had an old, I call it a hotel motel. I'm not sure what it was, but it was an old hotel motel on here. And we showed up that day and she said to us, I'm sorry, they don't want to sell this property. However, I have another piece of property and I'm wondering if you would be willing to look at it. And we're like, sure, we would love to. And she drove us to this location and I couldn't believe it because it was literally the one that we'd been dreaming of forever. And she told me the story that, Jack really felt that this was a legacy. It was something that they could leave for their community.
Very cool.
And it just all started clicking into place. And the original location was 1.5 acres. And I told them that I did not want the entire 1.5 acres. I only wanted the acre because I knew what size of building we needed to build. And I also didn't want to take care of a 1/2 acre piece of property that we wouldn't be using. So we started the works. And because the property was not for sale, it did take a little bit longer than it normally probably would have. But that was exactly because of that. The property was not for sale. It was something that they were generously offering to us. So there were some different things that had to go through permitting. They had to
I
do
remember that
some
part of the process taking a lot longer for them.
It did.
Like as a casual observer of this during that time, I remember that taking a little bit longer than we would have liked to
Right.
actually finalize the sale of the property and get all those I's dotted and T's crossed and
Correct.
stuff.
But it was actually a really great thing because working for government, our processes, we have very, very clear processes for public works, for architecture, for design, everything that we have to do also. So in order for those things are running simultaneously. So I'm running that, we're meeting, we're having to pick an architect. We have to go through the RFQ process. All of these things take time. So with them getting their stuff in order, us working, it was just kind of side by side working until you get to that point where the property is ours. And then
you can go ahead and well, now we can break ground. We've
then
done this
we
before.
can start our stuff. Then we can move forward with really dialing down into the design, finalizing design, and then getting out to the RFP process, because we have to find a contractor. We have to do all these things. So all of those behind the scenes are happening all the time. And this is not our full-time job doing this. This is stuff we're doing in addition to. Judy's a library manager. I'm a operations director with, 3 or 4 departments that I'm working in. These are just things that we're doing to keep it moving, but we want to get it done. We want to get the building built. We also had a lease issue where we had extended our lease in the current building. And so we had a timeline there that we were trying to meet.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you're not, without a home for too long.
Correct.
Make that transition.
Yes. So a lot of things going on at that time.
Well, it's an enormous project. And we've done quite a few different remodels and renovations and refreshes in the past few years, and did that whole episode and talked about them. But in all of those cases, the building already exists.
Right.
It's either owned by the city or it's owned by Timberland. So whatever you're doing in those structures, you're working with something that's already there, to improve it, make it more usable, make it more appealing. But this is an entirely different scale of project, right? This is the first new building that we built in over 20 years. Is that right? Do you know the exact number?
Cheryl keeps saying that.
She's very fond of saying that.
But I know we built Chehalis. Is that because Chehalis was already a building that we knocked down and it was already there? I don't know for sure.
I think
Let's
because
not get
that
into
was a city
technicalities.
project.
Is that why?
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's
the
what
one
I
that
was
Timberland built, I get it.
Yes.
Got it now. Because I'm going,
Well, that's the line that we've been going with, so we'll stick with
Correct,
it.
we have,
First new
but-
building in over 20 years.
okay.
Well, 2 decades sounds
2
good.
decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Great. In any case, you're starting with a bare plot of land. There's nothing here. So,
Well, there was a hotel.
well, yeah, we bulldoze that. There's videos of that online. You can check
Yes.
that out. But basically speaking, you're starting from scratch, so
Yeah.
which is really foreign to me. You wouldn't want me managing a project like
No, it
this.
sounds terrible.
I have a hard time thinking, dreaming creatively like that. I'm better at just being told to do this or that, and I'll do it. But both of you have experience in this from the very beginning. So take us through, how do you even begin
To conceptualize.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, what the design, what features you need, what it needs to look like.
What's possible in the first place?
Where do you begin?
Well, it's collaboration. Again, I go back to, we build the team of who's going to be involved in, because you can't do everything with consensus, and you can't do everything with everybody's opinion. You'll never get done. So the team was very small. Kendra, the deputy director, was involved. Judi and I were involved primarily. There's some back of the house people that were, working on contracts and public works and, different RFQs and RFPs and kind of that back part of it that is happening at the same time that we're managing. But to conceptualize, I mean, you start with your wish list again. You talk about what you need for your communities, and the person that knows that best is a library manager. So we sit down and we talk about the size. We talk about what we're thinking. We talk about the vision for the future, and not building a space that cannot withhold time and be, dated or not functional in a short period of time, because we want to get the most bang out of our buck we can. I don't want to have to come back here in a few years and be like, well, that's terrible. That doesn't work. I mean, that's more money. Again, I said I was cheap. So that was one of the things. And so working with Judi, she creates her list, she creates her wants, and she can explain how she did all of that, because she would just, send things, and then we would start back and forth, communication, collaboration. How are we going to question, answer, a lot of communication back and forth, and a lot of just really listening to each other and figuring out. Then the community, we had a community survey, I believe, prior to this, listening to what the community wanted and building those pieces in. A lot of that is, that's just how we typically do anything at Timberland. I mean, there's a lot of input, but at some point, decisions have to be made, and you have to get that team rather small in order to get all of that stuff, the wish lists of people, moving forward.
But it wasn't just a community survey. We also had meetings in the communities. We had multiple meetings in Randle and Glenoma, and at the time also in Morton, and getting the community's feedback. And obviously, we couldn't do everything that we wanted to do because we are limited. There is no chocolate fountain
You couldn't get that massage chair
Heavy
in that
sigh.
manager's office.
Oh,
No, I don't have a massage chair. We don't have a quiet room, as it were. That's just something that takes up space that we just really don't have the space to do that kind of thing. But we do have our Four Seasons room, which is going to be called the community room. And it is good for meetings, and it's great on Friday afternoons. The school lets out early and the teens come over, and we put them back there. Sometimes we shut the doors. We have had to ask them to turn the music down a couple of times, but
As you do with teenagers.
As you do, right. But it's great because the teenagers can come and they do have a place they can hang out. And if they don't want to be back there playing video games, they can be sitting out here reading, which is often what we do see with teens. They may not all want to do the same thing. So we have multiple things for them to do.
And I've seen the term Four Seasons meeting room thrown around a lot on our social media and stuff. Actually, maybe it's my own ignorance, but what is a Four Seasons meeting room? What are the four seasons involved here? What makes it Four Seasons?
We can heat it in the winter, so regardless of if there's snow and ice, we can have a nice cozy place back there, and we'll be able to cool it in the summertime because otherwise it would just be a sweat box. So it's good for all the
Spring and
seasons.
fall, you're on your own.
And there's windows all the way around, so you can actually look out and see the seasons. You can see the mountains, you can see the
Gotcha.
trees, you can see the snow on the grass and on the fake grass, and
Yeah,
you
the
get to
little turf
experience it
outside
all.
of the
Yeah,
door.
isn't that awesome? Our AstroTurf, we love it.
yeah. The term is meant to be in the construction. It's more about that you can use it all year round because it is heated
Gotcha.
or
Which is
conditioned.
what you want in a meeting room. Can
Yeah.
be used all year round.
Because if you said it's a 2-season, then that would mean only when you can actually
It's
bear to
comfortable,
be.
and 50% of the time,
Correct.
it's
Yes,
comfortable all the time.
exactly.
Spring, fall, poof, you're
Yeah,
done.
there you go.
We didn't want that.
We didn't want that. So it's usable all year round. And then with the doors that we did, you can open it up and it can expand. So programming can spill in or out. We knew that they had large programs in this, especially in the summer. We'd seen the photos. We'd seen, a lot of the things that were happening. So we knew that was something that needed to happen. But again, how do we get more use out of the space so that it's multi-purpose, multi-function, so that we're not we're just saying there's this one room that gets used a little bit. We don't have that luxury, especially in public libraries where money is tight and it's taxpayer. We've got to get as much as we can squeezed out of those dollars. So taking into consideration all the things that this room could be. It can be a meeting room. It can be a teen space. It can be an overflow space. It could be a quiet space. You close the doors and go back into the back corner on the tables and by the fireplace back there. It's probably quieter than sitting here next to the mushroom on this side. So those are just all those things that we think about and thought about. Is it perfect? Do we hit the mark every single time? No, but we do think about them. We do strive for those things.
Well, I'm curious, was the drive-through window or the drive-up window, was that a wish list item?
I think that was a mandatory item from the get-go. That was something we talked about from the very beginning. Out here, snow, ice, and people just need that quick grab what I have on hold and take off kind of thing. Parents, and this is true at every library that we have. Parents that have their kids in the car seat, and it's such an effort to get all the kids into the library and get just for a 5-minute transaction. It's just easier to pull up to the drive-through. We have a doorbell there now. People can just hit the doorbell and, staff will be there to get whatever it is they need.
That seems like a default. You're right. In any
Yeah.
new library, a drive-through would just have to be part of that. I can imagine. We have
Feasible.
we have buildings that are, Carnegie libraries that have been around for forever. So obviously you're not going to punch out a drive-through window in some of these spaces. But yeah, it's so popular in Chehalis. I can't imagine building a new building and not having a drive-through.
Right. Right. And that was just, it had to be. It was one of those things we knew from the very beginning. There has to be a drive-up window. And so obviously it's the perfect place to put your circulation desk, your info desk, because they can work both at the same time. We haven't had a lot of people using the drive-up window, but I think people who have been here even don't realize necessarily that it's right there. So it's still about getting the word out about everything. And the drive-up window is a great feature.
We were talking on the way up here about getting you a neon sign.
There you go.
Drive through so people can't miss it.
Yeah.
Well, I heard an interesting comment about the width of the drive-through, taking into consideration the types of vehicles that people are driving in this area. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah, because you can't have a low overhang and you have a lot of people in pickup trucks, in vans, in motorhomes that'll come through. And so, yeah, you have to take all of that into consideration. You have to have a little bit of a shelf to put their books on when you reach out to them. But it can't be so deep that you can't reach the car. So a lot of things come into play. It's not just a matter of, poof, here's a window. Use it. I mean, and then you have to.
It's just so interesting that you took into consideration the types of vehicles that people are most likely to be driving up here.
Absolutely.
I think
That
that's
local
so
knowledge
considerate.
coming into play.
Well,
Absolutely.
and then you have low cars too. So I mean, you have to be able to reach out to the patron when they pull up, and yeah, you have to consider all that. And rain, you have to consider rain. So we do have plastic bags. In case people come up and it's pouring rain, you want to be able to get them their material without the books getting wet. So we have plastic bags for that.
Well, something I've been curious about, and you knowing the area as well as you do. So I know that we've talked about when we put a children's structure, a play structure, we're taking into account what's available for children in that community already.
Right.
So I've been curious about the meeting room and the play structure. Are there other places in this area where there is a free meeting room to access or an indoor play structure?
No, there really isn't anything in the community already. And I have some cards that some people left behind when they came for the grand opening. And so one of our patrons said, "Hi, I'm most excited for Teen Time, the first and third Fridays of each month. I go to White Pass High School. There isn't much fun stuff for teens around here. So glad for this space."
Where is White Pass High School?
So the schools are about a block away. The library actually faces towards the school. That's where our front door is. And I had the honor last week of attending Books and Blankets at the White Pass Elementary School. And that was one of the things that I talked about was, here's your great new library. We hope that you'll use it. And during that, one of the teachers approached me and said, yes, this is one of the things we want to do is bring our students over to the library. We can just walk over there. There's already a crosswalk. They can walk through the field behind Arbor Health Medical, behind the dentist's office, and wind up here at the library. And so we are more than happy to host any school, any classes that want to come over. And because we don't open till 11, that does leave us some leeway in the morning. If they want to come over and be the only ones here, I'm fine with that. I'll be happy to meet them here, let them in, let them experience the library, just the kids doing what kids do. And some of the kids approached me at Books and Blankets and said, I was at your library when you opened and it's so awesome and the mushroom is so great. And I love the Mushroom House so much.
Aww.
And some other comments that we've had. Thank you for all the joy-filled memories with my family. Congrats on the beautiful space.
Adorable.
And thank you for having this library as a resource in our community. Love coming to get new books to borrow and have in my home. When my grandkids visit me, I always have new books to read to them and for them to read as well. I hope when they grow up, they will remember reading at Grandma's house. So all of these comments that I've got chills.
Oh,
all these
so
comments are just awesome. And I haven't heard anything negative. I have heard suggestions, which a lot of the stuff, we are still working on it. We are not done yet. One of the problems we're all experiencing is the sunlight coming through the windows, which is a good problem to have. But if you're sitting in a certain space at a certain time, you can be blinded. Even my desk, I have the sun that comes in the afternoon and just hits me right in the face. And so if I'm in meetings, you'll see me moving around in different
I had that
spots.
problem earlier.
Yes, you
in the-
did. We noticed that. But yeah, that's something we're working on. There's a few things we're still working on. So we're not done yet. So just keep
Well, I understand
coming
that they
back.
just came in and put some mesh over the window at the top of the mushroom literally this morning to
They did.
keep kids from curiously throwing items off the top of the mushroom. So that's, improvement.
That was an important step.
You
Yes.
observe how people use the structure and you adjust.
Exactly. And we have a stovepipe on it now with a birdhouse. I just noticed the birdhouse.
Adds
So,
charm,
Yes.
for sure. Charm upon charm.
so that's the thing. Just keep coming back to the library because we're going to keep making changes and improvements. And we are listening to what patrons say and taking all of that into account. And we're working on it.
It's a beautiful asset for the community and just great resources for all these folks out here to have.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite feature of the library, would you say?
I don't know that I have one favorite. Obviously, the mushroom.
I
Because
feel like
it's
that's
not
the default
something-
choice. You got to pick
Yeah.
something else.
It's not something you're going to see everywhere. And if I choose the fireplace, that's probably another.
I don't know.
Default.
I would say, having only been here before the fireplace was turned on, I really like that. That's some really nice ambiance. And we got the story about how there's steam that's supposed to look like fire. I don't think I've seen a fireplace quite like that. It's pretty cool. It's like those fake candles that people used to have when I was growing up around Christmas. So like have like the flicker effect, except it's way classier than that.
I think that's another must-have for all new libraries is a fireplace.
Yeah,
There's just
right.
something so inviting and cozy about a fireplace.
It really does.
The bar is really set high.
So how about you, Brenda? Do you have a favorite feature?
I will tell you that I love all of the things that everybody loves, but I love the colors and both inside and outside. I feel the green when you look out these windows and you see just this mountain of tree. You cannot compare that. And then like when you drive up to this beautiful building on the outside, and like Judi said, we're still working on a few things. There's signage and some other things that are happening. It just fits here so well, and it fits this little area. And I just love the look of the feel of the building when you drive up to it.
Well, something that I've been telling people in my neck of the woods who are coming up to go skiing. I'm like, there's not many places you can stop on Highway 12, like with your kids, that you don't have to pay anything. And so I've been telling people, if you're going up to ski at White Pass, this is a great place for you to stop. If you're not here during open hours, then you can apply for expanded access hours. And you can apply for that at any of our libraries, any of our branches. And it gets you a card that will get you into the library at the participating library branches that have EAH.
I feel like 13 of them now, right?
12.
12.
12. So
This
it's
is
from
the 12th.
7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So even if you are driving back from skiing with your kids, you want to stop and, let them play on the mushroom so I'm just like, I think this is a great kind of place that people would want to stop. And it's going to be so recognizable because of
Use the free
mushroom.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, use the Wi-Fi. You guys can chill out, use the bathroom while your
Get some
kids
pizza
play.
across the street.
Get some pizza across the street.
It's almost lunchtime, man. Come on.
Anyway, so I think that's a good way to utilize this building as well for people that are passing through, but part of the Timberland Regional Library System.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground. Do you want to explain what the puzzle is next to you as a way to kind of close out this episode?
Absolutely. So at our opening day celebration, we had these puzzle pieces available that patrons could come in and decorate however they wanted to. And I probably have over 100 pieces to put together. So I just put together a quick one this morning, and I have a little card that someone said, I am excited for the puzzle to be built. I'm also excited for this whole building. So this is just a sample of what our patrons have done. Obviously, I had to put the mushroom in there because
Naturally.
So there's a piece that says simply, we love our library. We have a campfire. We have a cat.
A very well done eye.
A
And
very
the
well
eagle.
done
The
eye.
eagle is
The
really
eagle
well done.
is
Artist here.
awesome. The spaceship and the dinosaur. I mean, it's just all
Some
of
real
it.
talent there.
Yes. And this is just, like I say, just a very little part of what I still have to put together. And we're just kind of trying to figure out exactly how we're going to put all of it together, if we're going to have multiple little displays of the puzzle pieces or one big display. So we'll be working on that over the next week, and you'll be able to come in and see this right here at the library.
And people come in and still contribute to the
They
puzzle
can still
pieces?
contribute. I still have probably about 70 pieces left. So people can come in, make some more puzzle pieces, and we'll continue to add to our community puzzle, because that's what this is. This is a community space. This isn't our library, it's the community's library. And I want people to come in, enjoy it, make suggestions, and just have fun.
Couldn't have said that better myself.
Well, we appreciate you both very much being on this episode and lending all of your experience and
Thanks for
knowledge.
hosting us.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks
coming
for having
down.
us here.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing how everyone enjoys this beautiful library going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more listeners.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Timberland Library. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at trlpodcast@trl.org.
Original music is by our very own librarian and talented musician, Stefan, at the Yelm Branch.
Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep the conversation going. Thank you for being a part of the TRL community.